Hi guys, welcome back. Good afternoon. We have just a few minutes until we start our class meeting. Today's first review session for the class. So hope you guys have been having a solid week, and we'll just get things rolling in a few moments. Hi there, Janae. How's it going? Hi, Anna. Welcome back. Hi, Nathan. Welcome back. Just a couple moments here. Hey, Stephen. Welcome. Okay, guys, it's pretty much 2:20, so let's get things underway. Welcome back. I'm glad you guys are here. So we have an important meeting today and also Tuesday coming up because we're getting ready finally for the midterm exam. So the midterm exam is going to be next Thursday, a week from today. It's just it takes the place of our Thursday meeting next week before spring break. And according to our schedule, this is all listed in our calendar and our dates, but just while we're here to check in with each other, we have 2 review sessions, today and Tuesday next week. So I sent off the study guide for everybody, 6 days ago on the 12th? No, not the 12th, I'm sorry. I just sent it this week. I'm thinking of a different category of a different class. But anyway, I have sent you guys the study guide. So I would ask for you to go ahead and pull up your copy of the study guide if you have one. If not, please go back into the Canvas announcements page for our class and simply just pull up the document. We're going to be using this study guide document to go through all our notes and review all the topics again as we prepare for the exam next Thursday. So then let's just go ahead and get it in. We're going to start from the top and try and work our way through all the topics right up till the bottom. There have been 4 chapters that we study overall. Chapter 8 and our early material on what is just logic and what is argument, what is deduction, induction, validity, soundness, strength. So that's the first chapter of material to review. Then there's chapter 1. That's all about qualities of good critical thinkers, stages of cognitive development, famous social psychology experiments, barriers and obstacles to being a good critical thinker, forms of narrow-mindedness. Okay, and then there's chapter 3, and that's all about language and communication. What is language? What are different functions that it has? Different types of definitions, etc. And then chapter 4 is all about knowledge and the limits of human knowledge. Like what is knowledge? What are different views about where we get most of it? And that's the stuff that we just finished with in the last meeting. So we're going to go back over these 4 chapters, and we have 2 full class periods to do this. So today's just part 1. Part 2 on Tuesday, we'll continue through the notes. But let's just get started. If you have your study guide, then you can use it to refer to the questions that I'm asking. So now here's the thing with me. The way I like to do review sessions, the way I prefer to run them, is to have them be mostly student-driven. I like it when the students kind of step up and do their best to try and help provide the information. But what I will do is I'll clarify things. I'll make sure that if I need to correct anybody or expand upon anything, that I'll add that extra detail. But again, I kind of want you guys to do your best to at least attempt to give some of these answers to the questions, okay? So let's just start at the beginning. I'm looking at the list of study guide topics from Chapter 8. And the first question there, so you're going to go back to the first notes that you should have in this class. What is a good critical thinker? Hi, Remy. Good to see you. And everyone else here, yeah, as usual, leave a comment at some point, even if you don't participate too much in the chat, because I would like to keep a record of attendance. So here's the question that we're starting off with, guys, to review for our midterm next week. What is a good critical thinker? Who thinks they could tell me that? And if you can give me something, then I'll meet you halfway and we'll talk about it in the chat. So what do you think is a good critical thinker? Hi there, Matt. Good to see you too. And let's just understand, today's not like a normal meeting. It's not like where you're just going to sit back and take the notes that I'm giving. You have to do stuff today because it's your review session. So I have nothing to teach. I'm just helping you review. So there's questions, then you should answer. What is a good critical thinker? You can take a moment, collect your thoughts, look at your notes, find the info, but don't leave me hanging forever. What is a good critical thinker? I promise you, I won't say anything until you give me a comment. Okay, good, Kellen. So as someone who does not believe certain arguments without undeniable evidence, when they make arguments, they make them with undeniable evidence themselves, aren't easily fooled. Okay, I like what you've written. There's only one or two little things I would maybe edit just slightly. So basically it's correct though. A good critical thinker is a person who won't believe a claim unless it can be based on good evidence or arguments. When you say undeniable evidence though, that's perhaps a bit too strong. Like undeniable would mean there's no possible way it could be false. It's just, you wouldn't believe it unless there's good supporting evidence or arguments to back it up. So a good critical thinker, they say, are you sure? What's the proof? How do you know that? Before they're willing to accept something as true. Okay, so there's a little bit of scrutiny and a demand for evidence and arguments to back up a claim. So that's right. A good critical thinker is someone that would not believe something unless there was good evidence or arguments to support it. And as you also said, Callan, when a good critical thinker makes claims to other people, they make sure to provide good evidence or arguments to back it up. Yeah, okay, so that's good. And what is a bad critical thinker? If you think you could tell me. Oh, also, Lan, let me get your comments. Good critical thinker, a person who will not believe a claim unless it's supported by good evidence or arguments, right? And when making claims to others, they provide good evidence or arguments to support those claims. Exactly. So good critical thinkers don't just say stuff and then they can't back themselves up. Like if you ask them why, they wouldn't just be like, actually, I don't know. I just kind of think that. They'd be able to tell you reasons and give you evidence so they can defend their views. And sometimes when the information's coming at them from other people, they're gonna ask for good evidence and arguments, or else they wouldn't believe it. Now, what is the reverse of that? A bad critical thinker. It's basically the reverse. Yes, Kellen. So it is a person that will believe things that are not based on good evidence or arguments. And a bad critical thinker, when they make claims to others, they don't have the ability, or maybe in some cases even the desire, to provide good evidence or arguments to support those claims. So if you're a bad critical thinker, you basically believe things for no good reason. And if somebody asks you why is that true, or how do you think that's true, you're not able to defend it. So we want to be the good critical thinkers of the world. We don't want to be the kind of people out there that are easily tricked, manipulated, deceived, exploited by false or unreliable or misleading arguments. So being a good critical thinker is definitely a huge benefit to you. It's going to make you a more competitive and a more self-sufficient person. You know, it's a competitive world, and if you're not a good critical thinker, just imagine how many people can sell you a false set of products, can make poor and misleading, and in some cases radical arguments that would win your support to things that are not actually in your best interests. So you want to be a good critical thinker that can distinguish true from false claims, good from bad arguments. If you don't have that skill, you're going to be taken advantage of by other people who know how to manipulate, and therefore it's definitely good for you to be a good critical thinker. So anyways, that's the first definition we talked about. Good critical thinker only believes things based on good evidence and arguments, not otherwise, produces good evidence and arguments to defend their views. And on the opposite side, bad critical thinkers believe whatever, even if there's no good reason, and they can't defend their views and back them up. So now next though, what is an argument? What's an argument? And I'm talking about like in the formal sense of logic and critical thinking, not in the sort of everyday sense that some people talk about arguments, like people getting mean to each other and yelling and being offensive. No, what is an argument in the sort of logical and critical thinking sense? If you could tell me that. So that's the next question for us. Let's see who can take up that baton and just tell me what the answer would be. The definition of argument. Okay, that's very good, Nathan. It's a set of two or more sentences where one sentence is the conclusion and all the other sentences are premises. Yes, exactly. So when you have an argument, the argument is built out of sentences. Every argument has to have a minimum of two sentences because you have one conclusion and a minimum of at least one premise. And this leads us right into the next question on the list. Okay, so what are the parts of the argument? I know you mentioned them, Nathan, briefly, but now let's expand upon that. What is the definition of a premise and what is the definition of a conclusion? Just, you can tell me. Let's start maybe with definition of conclusion. What is the conclusion of the argument? Okay, good, Nathan. So the conclusion, the claim that you're trying to prove to be true, the premises, those are the reasons or the evidence that supports the conclusion. Okay, so like suppose that here's my conclusion. You took a cookie out of the cookie jar. Not you, but like somebody, right? He took a cookie out of the cookie jar. And what's my argument? Okay, well, he's got cookie crumbs all over his shirt. And there's a trail of cookie crumbs that leads from the jar to his room where he was laying down on the bed. So, I mean, is it a perfect argument? I don't know. I guess it could be some reasons why they didn't actually eat the cookies and the evidence is somehow poorly interpreted. But at least in this case, I would say, okay, I have some reasons. You've got cookie crumbs all over your shirt. There's a cookie missing. And I see this trail of crumbs, so therefore I conclude that you took these cookies. So the conclusion, the claim you're trying to prove is that they took it. And the premises are all those statements that are given before the conclusion as to why you think that's true. Was he framed? Maybe, Kellen. Maybe the cookie monster stole this and just planted the evidence. But at least there's evidence, okay? So it's not like you're just saying, hey, you took a cookie. I don't know why I can't prove it. I have no reason to think so. There's reasons given. You think that the person cheated on you and you say you cheated and they say, what makes you think that? Be like, okay, I was looking at your phone records, I was looking at your messages and stuff. I went through your phone and I saw that you've had all these conversations. Plus you got like lipstick on your collar and the laundry basket. So I think you've been cheating, therefore I conclude that you've cheated. These are evidences that are given. I'm giving you some kind of informal examples of just like everyday cases where a person might reach a conclusion. Their package is missing and they're like, what happened to it? They see footprints in the snow leading up to their doorstep. So they say, there's footprints leading up to the doorstep. It says the package was delivered, but it's no longer here. Therefore, I think it was stolen. They give a reason. They give several reasons which lead up to this conclusion. Okay, so all I've said so far is an argument is a set of two or more sentences. It's every argument contains a conclusion that you're trying to prove, and then some number of premises, at least one, which gives support for that conclusion. Okay, now, the whole point of making these arguments is to establish that the conclusion of the argument is true. So the next question we should deal with is, what does the word truth mean then? What is the definition of truth? Yeah, that's a question. Okay, good, Philip. When what a sentence says matches the facts of reality. That's very good. So with truth, you have to compare the content of a sentence with the real facts of reality. So if I'm telling you right now that I'm wearing I don't know, what do you call this, a flannel or something? That's true, because that's what I am wearing. If I tell you that I'm wearing a hat, this is not correct information. It's not true because it's a statement, but in reality, I'm not wearing a hat. So things that people say could be true or false when they make claims, but what makes the difference is whether reality matches those claims. So can anybody give an example of a true sentence? I know you can, so I guess I'll say this. Please, if you could, give me an example of a true sentence. Just write something that's true. Write down a sentence that is a true one, so I can see that you understand this concept of truth and you can apply it to real examples. So say something true. Getting your tongue tied, give me an example of something true. Look around you. There's all kinds of true stuff. You know about it. Tell me something true. That I'm your teacher? Well, I am right now. That's fair enough. I guess I haven't been your teacher in the past, and I won't be your teacher in the future. I'm a Tetris god. Thank you very much. I don't know. There are people better than me, even, like I said, my own siblings. But it's a little bit of an ambiguous claim because somebody could question what is the definition of a Tetris god and stuff like that. I'm wearing glasses. That's true. Now, Philip, I notice you guys are keeping on referring to me. How about something that's true that has nothing to do with me at all? That has something to do with maybe the past or something that's not even close by to you. I want you to think outside the box a little because you're just drawing from examples of like the current circumstances that we're in. Yeah, I'm wearing glasses, yes. But let's branch off a little bit. Tell me something true that has nothing to do with what's going on in this meeting right now or the people in this meeting. Those are true things. I'm not saying those are wrong, but you know, there's more in the world than just this meeting, obviously. So tell me something true that's not at all related to what we're doing here. There was a world war, okay? There were multiple world wars. True enough, Philip. Yeah, World War I, World War II. Dinosaurs, they did exist. That's also a fact. Yeah, the moon orbits the planet Earth. The Earth orbits the sun. The sun is up every day. Well, it has been in the past, yes. So all right, I think all that stuff makes good sense. You were born, that's also true, I agree. Dogs have 4 legs, most of them do. There's some that have unfortunately had a leg amputated. You've seen maybe videos of those paraplegic dogs. There's only 2 genders. I don't know, Anna. I mean, you know, that's highly controversial. There's many people that would argue there's non-binary, there's intersex or whatever. So, you know, in the days that we live in, people will claim gender is an assigned concept that you can determine on your own. One thing I think is funny, though, is that I can't choose my zodiac sign. But anyway, back to the question, though. I wouldn't go for something as controversial as that because clearly you don't have everyone that agrees. But yeah, all these are good examples overall with some just comments on the side. If I told you that Columbus sailed to North America in 1492, it's a true thing, but it's not having to do with our current situation. If I tell you that iron is heavier than helium, that's another true fact about the atomic weight of these elements. And we could continue on and on and on, okay? But the point is that when you have a true sentence, it matches the world. Now, what about belief? What's the definition of the word belief? This follows after explaining what truth is, because you have to kind of mention the word truth in the definition statement of belief. So what is it to have a belief in a sentence? If you believe a sentence, what does that exactly mean? Yeah, yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and it was my birthday, but I didn't really do anything too interesting, just a lot of teaching and grading. Okay, so, wait, what? Chickens are dinosaurs. You're throwing me off, Kellen. I'm asking you to define the word belief. It's when you think something is true, to think that a sentence is true, yes. So what a belief is whatever you think is the case. And people can have different beliefs, right? One person can say, I believe there's life in outer space. I think that there really is, like, out there. Another person can say, I don't agree with that. I believe that, you know, God created us in his image, and he would never want weird aliens out there. It's all about humanity on planet Earth. Well, these are 2 people. They don't agree about what's true. They have different beliefs, but they can't both be right. Okay, so, oh no, not to worry, Kellen. I was just, you know, you can understand I was a bit confused, but it's good. So yeah, like, a belief is a statement that you think reflects the facts. One person can say, I think that the moon landing wasn't real. Another person thinks it was. And those 2 people don't agree on the statement that, you know, people walked on the moon. So beliefs are kind of up to you. You decide what you think is true or false. But of course, if you're a good critical thinker, you hope to have beliefs that are mostly true. Because if you have a head full of false beliefs, then by definition of the words true and false, you're disconnected from reality. So if a person has a whole head full of false beliefs, then they think that the reality is a certain way, but in fact, it's just not. So one of the major points to trying to be a better critical thinker is to be a more skilled judge of truth and objective fact. Nobody wants to walk around misinformed, misled, deceived, or confused. So if you have true beliefs, you're getting things right, and you perceive the world accurately. Okay, so we've covered these things. Good or bad critical thinker, what's an argument, parts of an argument, what's truth, what's belief. So now I'm asking you this. What are some conclusion indicator words? So these are words that if they are spoken or written, what they indicate is that the conclusion of an argument is to now be stated. So what are some of those well-known conclusion indicator words? Very good. Therefore is one of them, Lan. Yes. Therefore. So like if I say to you, look, there's cookie crumbs all over your shirt, and I can see that there's some cookies missing. So therefore, you ate the cookies. Therefore is only one of them, though. Let's continue. Yes, there's more. Okay, so Ryan, you have so. That's another good one, and that's common. Your fingerprint was on the murder weapon, so you're the murderer. So, right, so expresses that here is the conclusion I'm reaching on the basis of the evidence that I just mentioned. Thus, that's also very good, and hence, also correct, Nathan. My package is missing. It said it was delivered, and I have video surveillance footage that shows someone in the area last night at around the time it was delivered. So, thus, hence, in conclusion, I believe it was taken. Okay, so those words that I just mentioned, thus, hence, so, in conclusion, therefore, once again, they indicate that following on after that is the conclusion of some reasonable argument. Ergo, another interesting one. Yes, Lan, that's kind of an older Latin conclusion indicator word. Maybe not as commonly used, but it's used in the academy, and it sometimes is there. Another one randomly, I don't know, I'll just throw this out at you just to add one more to the list, but make of it what you will. Sometimes people also have the phrase QED. And that's an abbreviation, an acronym from Latin. And I think it has, in the Latin, it's like quod est demonstratum, so it is demonstrated. I don't want to overwhelm you with too many possibilities because it's okay to just have a few of these in your mind. But QED is another one. While we're on the topic, it just came across my mind. Okay, so those are all conclusion indicator words. Be wise to the knowledge that if you hear or see these words, you're looking at someone's argument and they gave some reasons for that conclusion. Now, what next? There's premise indicator words too. So these are words which indicate that it is the premise of the argument that you're being talked to about. So these are like evidence words. These are words which indicate that here's some evidence for a conclusion. So who knows what could be some of those premise indicator words then? Yeah, just let me know. Premise indicator words. Okay, given that, because, since. Very good. Because and since I kind of think of as like the top two, because that's the most ordinary ones to hear in everyday language and conversation. Like if somebody told you, well, since my package isn't there, and since I see footprints all around it, therefore I think it was stolen. Since, I'm saying since, here are the reasons. Since these reasons, therefore something else. Since you've been out late all night and you're coming home with alcohol in your breath, therefore you were out drinking. So I'm like saying here, since, because of these reasons, and since this and that, because that, therefore I reached this conclusion. And there's also given that and provided that and due to the fact that. Correct. Due to the fact that your breath smells like alcohol, and given the fact that you're having a hard time walking, I think that you're too drunk to drive, or therefore you're too drunk to drive. So in these examples mentioned, there's some reasons that are given as a basis to draw a conclusion. And when the reasons are mentioned, we don't say therefore, we say the reason words. We say because, since, due to the fact that, provided that, given that. And then when we're ready to say the conclusion that's based on those things, we would say therefore, hence, so, thus, or whatever. Not whatever. That's funny. It's funny when you're teaching. Sometimes when you're teaching about words, you sometimes have to remember when you're mentioning and when you're using the words. So like when I say, here's a list of conclusion indicator words, and then I end with whatever, it's like me using the word whatever, not mentioning it as one of the items in the list, just so we're clear. Okay, so then, continuing through the list. And by the way, if ever you want more explanation or you want me to go back or something's not clear, please feel free to let me know and I'll help you understand it. So I'm asking now, what is an imperative sentence? What is an imperative sentence? What kind of sentence is that? I think we'll be able to say what an imperative is. That's our next topic on the list. You gonna leave me hanging about imperatives? It's something you know. It's definitely, go back to your notes in the early portion of the class. Yeah, that's right. They're commands. They're commands. So any kind of command that you would issue through directive language is an imperative statement or sentence. So can someone write down an imperative? What if I say this to you? Write down an imperative. Do it. Write down an imperative. That's kind of just a joke, but anyway, maybe you catch the joke. But yeah, anyway, write an imperative if you can. What do you think is an example? We know that they're commands, so give me a command. I mean, I could run off a whole bunch of them right very quickly, but I like it when you guys do it because you need to know it. So okay, good, Jordan. Do the dishes. Go wash the car. Give me an A. Ha. So you command that to your professor. Teach me. Also kind of funny. Thanks, Nathan. Fetch me some water. Teach me philosophy. You guys are too funny. Okay, so yeah, those are all good. How about this? If I say to you, write down an imperative, is that an imperative? Yes. So that's kind of like a little meta example. Yeah, so commands all across the board, whatever they may be about, whatever topic they're centered around, they're all within this definition of imperatives. Drop the weapon. Get out of the car. Hold my bag. Wait for me. Don't do that. These are commands. And so commands are an important part of speech. Get the butter sock. Okay, funny. Yeah, so there's all kinds of obvious examples. You guys have given me some cool, interesting, and different funny ones too. And so just know, yeah, put your hands up, police commands, or sometimes authoritative figures issue commands in emergency situations, or in everyday life we sometimes do it like because we want someone to do something for us. Okay, fair and all good all around. So my next question is this: what is an interrogative sentence? Question, what's an interrogative sentence? What's the answer to that question? Yes, interrogatives are questions. So even the question, what is an interrogative, is an interrogative. And so, yeah, easy enough, I hope, to remember, but an interrogative, think the word interrogate, which is when you would ask someone something in a certain kind of setting. It's any sentence at all that ends with a question mark. Okay, so how many examples of that can you come up with? I'm sure you could put a few in the chat if you have a moment, but while you're doing it, I mean, I can think of infinitely many. Where am I? What day is it? Where's the bathroom? When is the midterm? What's your favorite color? How many siblings do you have? Where can I park my car? You know, like questions all around. Anybody have something on that same topic? I guess it's not necessary. I mean, if you understand the idea, maybe it's besides the point to have a bunch of additional examples. But anyway, an interrogative is a question. Why am I the way I am? Very philosophical question. I think it has a lot to do with your environment, and maybe a little bit to do with your genetic inheritance from your parents. But I always lean on nurture over nature. What is the meaning of life? I've heard different accounts of that. I think one that's interesting is to make yourself want the objectively good things and then to achieve them. In that case, you get the fulfillment of your desires, but also your desires are righteous and good. If you had just desires to fulfill, but they were not good, then that might not be a good life. Because let's say if you have a desire to kill a bunch of people and you do it, you've accomplished your goals, but they're bad goals. So I think the main thing is to set your mind to accomplish the good goals, and then when you do so, you're winning, and that's the best you can get. But anyway, I'm not trying to answer the question, but I have to teach that sometimes. There's literature on that question in philosophy. But yeah, we can go on. So what is an assertoric sentence? What's an assertoric sentence? That's another important concept, not to be missed. So yeah. One more type of sentence that we mentioned to start our class. This one's big and important because this is kind of like the only type of sentence that we would ever use in an argument as a premise or as a conclusion. But I'm holding for your, okay. It's a true or false sentence. That's right. So it's any statement which has a truth value. It's any statement which is either true or false. So if I tell you that the sun orbits the planet Earth, that is an assertion. It's just that it's false because that's not in fact true. If I say the Earth orbits the sun, that's a true assertion. So both of those are assertions. It's just that one of them matches reality and the other one does not. Now, these types of sentences are the ones that are used as premises and conclusions. You'll never see an argument which concludes with like a question or a command, like, therefore, what am I doing? See, that wouldn't make sense. You have to always have a conclusion at the end that claims something is true at least. So we use assertoric sentences, and that's fundamental to the purposes of logic and reasoning. Okay, so now I'm asking topic 11 on the study guide. And this is important. I'll just say this. At least in this one case, I promise I'll ask this on the midterm because it's just too important to like let it go. So what we want to know for sure, what is a deductively valid argument? Could you give the definition of a deductively valid argument? So let me know. It's a certain type of argument, but what does it mean to say it's deductively valid? So just a couple of little hints while you're collecting your thoughts. It has something to do with the words if and then. Okay, Lan, very, very nice. If all of the premises are true, then in that case, the conclusion must also be true. Yes, that's right. That's the definition. So it's an argument where on the assumption that the premises are all true, the conclusion would have to be as well, because the conclusion is just a logical consequence or result of those premises. So who thinks they could perhaps give an example of an argument that is valid? Let me see what you've come up with or what you can come up with. Just take a moment. There's no real rush. We got a lot of time, but whenever you're ready, try and present in our chat here. What is an example of a deductively valid argument? You know, like an actual example of an argument that has that form. So I'll say a few things to maybe help you out. One easy way to generate such types of argument that are valid is to like have an all statement in there. And then if you say like all of a certain thing have a certain kind of quality, then you can fill in the remaining premises and the conclusion based on that first statement. Another possibility, another direction to go is the word no. If you say no of a certain thing has a given quality, then you can also trace that through to a valid conclusion. But okay, so Lan, you've gone with the mammal dog thing. That's a core example that I gave. But can we kind of freestyle something different? I mean, but your example is fair. That is valid. I was just thinking if we'd be a little creative and come up with something on your own that I've never put on the board before. But yeah. all dogs are mammals. And then you speak about a breed of dogs. Terriers are dogs. And so therefore, it follows that terriers are mammals. Oh, not to worry. Thanks, Kellen, for letting me know. But that's one given example. Someone else give me another one. Let's try and do another one. Something that we've never heard or seen in this class yet, but it's got to be valid. This is good. I like what you wrote, Lan, but I just kind of want to see if we can think a little bit independently on the topic. You know, because the examples I give you, it's possible for a student to be like, he said that, so I'm going to write it because he said it, but I don't really know what he's meaning. Any of you guys can step in. Okay, Philip, all alligators are cold-blooded. Reptiles are cold-blooded, so alligators are wait, no, this is not even valid. Okay, so all alligators are cold-blooded, but you're wrong. That's not valid because the first premise doesn't say only alligators are cold-blooded. It says all of them are. So on the basis that all alligators are cold-blooded and reptiles are cold-blooded, it does not follow that. Also, you're messing it up too because your conclusion names alligators, but your second premise names reptiles. So it's not correct. But understand the difference between all and only. If you had said only alligators are cold-blooded, and then you had said reptiles are cold-blooded, then it would have followed that that reptiles are alligators. But it doesn't follow because all is different from only. Like, so for example, if I say that all men own a dog, and let me say it this way. All men own a dog, Suzanne owns a dog, so Suzanne is a man. This is not valid because the first premise does not claim that only men own dogs. It says all of them do. So even if every single man owns a dog, that does not deny that things that are non-men also have them as well. So it's not a correct example. So let's get one that is correct. Come on, another attempt. Like to be precise, okay, look. This is not valid. Why not? Look at the first premise. It says all men have a dog. So here's men, here's dog owners, D. All men own dogs. But it doesn't say only men own dogs. That's why there's an additional region of space that is outside of the circle of M and still within the realm of D. So if, you know, Sally is one of these people that's a woman that owns a dog, it doesn't follow. Okay, Ryan. Philosophy is a general education, is a GE. GE is a requirement class, so philosophy is a required class. Okay, so I might have used your first premise. GEs are required, and philosophy is a GE, so therefore philosophy is required. Okay, good. That would be a valid argument as well. So, thank you. But make sure that when you write an example of a valid argument that it's valid. I mean, it can't be invalid. You get no points if you write an invalid example. It's fundamental, it's important. Double check, triple check, think about what the conclusion is and whether the premise is implied or not. Okay, so let's go to the next. Wow. Quick reaction time, huh? See, there's a little space behind here, so if the thing gets fully pushed back, it has that chance to slip. But all right. Okay, so the next question is this. What is the definition of a sound argument? Let me know that. For an argument to be sound, what's the definition? Anytime, you let me know. Oh. Okay, sorry. For a second there, I thought that we might have had a slight connection issue, so I just waited patiently, and it seems like we're all good. Well, Lan, what are you doing though? You're giving an example. I want a definition, not an example. But maybe you gave this example prior to my current question. If so, that's okay. What you wrote is that alcohol can make you drunk. Tequila is an alcohol, therefore tequila can make you drunk. Yeah, so sound, here's the right thing. A sound argument is a valid argument which has all true premises. Okay, good. So when you have a valid argument, sometimes it's sound and sometimes it's not. It's not sound if there's at least one premise that's not a correct statement to the facts. But it can still be valid in that case if the conclusion logically results from the premises, whatever they are. So when you're evaluating validity by itself, you're not being asked to look at whether any of the statements are true. You're just being asked to look at whether the conclusion is a conclusion that is a logical consequence of the information provided in the premises. With soundness, though, it has to be both valid and on top of that, have every premise being true. Okay, so let's try now to come up with an example of an argument which is valid but is not sound. So try and state an example of an argument that's valid, but at least one premise in the argument is false. And to help you think about it, a good way of doing such a thing is to present a premise which has a false all statement in it or something like that. Like if you say all men have long hair or whatever, that could be like a starting point for a valid but not sound argument because that's already false. But let me hear from you. What do you think is a good example, Ben, of a valid but it isn't sound argument? Okay, good. So Alex, Lan, whatever, sorry. All humans can fly. Babies are humans and therefore babies can fly. I like your example for the most part, but here's the only thing I would say. The category babies that you raise is a little bit ambiguously stated because I guess we could say there's baby animals and, you know, like there's like a baby lizard or like a baby cow. So maybe the best thing would be to name a specific human being. And then the conclusion would be that that specific human being with their name can fly. You know what I mean? So like all humans can fly, Joe Biden is a human being, and therefore Joe Biden can fly. That would be valid but not sound. And the reason it would not be sound is because the obvious first premise isn't true. Okay, good. Let's try another one. Let me hear another example from anybody. A valid argument but not sound. No, that's good. Who can supply another case? Philip, come on. Let's do it. Give me another one. Well, it doesn't have to be you, but just to be funny. But anyway, anyone, somebody, let's hear another argument. Valid but not sound. I'm going to ask you this, so it's time to know it. It's time to be able to write it down. If you can't write it down now, how will you do it on the day of the test? Let's get it out there. Valid but not sound. Okay, Ryan. All dogs can bark. Your pet can't bark. So your pet's not a dog. Okay, let me think of this. All dogs can bark. So if it can't bark, then it can't be a dog. Yeah, that's fine. But is it true though? I mean, how do I know about you? It's a weird example because I say make it be valid but not sound, right? Well, what statement is false? Like if it's not sound, Ryan, then there has to be a premise in the argument that's false. So which one's false? Just a question for you specifically, Ryan, since your example. Which of the premises is false? Are you like thinking about it and you're like, wait, I can't say because they're both true? Your pet cannot bark. So you have a dog, basically, Ryan? I mean, in other words, is that you do have a pet that can bark? What pet do you have, Ryan? No, Ryan, what pet do you have? Because we can't move on. We got to get this clear so that I know exactly what you're saying. You have a dog? You're not giving me nothing? Come on, you got to say, okay. Yeah, it's a sentence, but that's the problem, Ryan. It's not supposed to be a sentence. It's true that your pet can't bark. Well, the sentence doesn't say that you have a pet. It says I guess it does kind of imply that. You used to have one, okay. Well, now I know. But here's the problem though, Ryan, with your overall example. It's valid, no issue with that. And I guess all dogs can bark is true. So the only thing I would have had to see is the second premise is false. But I don't know you like that. I don't know if you have pets or not. So you're giving an example of a sentence that I cannot verify whether it's true or false. And since I'm telling you it can't be true and there has to be at least one premise that's false, you should make it an obviously false sentence. So other guys here, if I look in your example and you're like my bike or my age, I don't know nothing about what you guys own or how old you are or anything else. So it should be a public fact that everyone's aware of in the same way. So Nathan, all vehicles go fast, my bike can't go fast. Once again, I don't know about your bike. I don't even know if you have a bike. Let's ditch these examples. But Philip, here's what you say. Everyone around me speaks English. We're all humans, and therefore every human speaks English. Oh my goodness, that's not good at all. That's not valid, Philip. Why would you think that every human can speak English just because some people around you can speak English? It's clearly not valid because not everyone can speak English. So it's totally not valid at all. Not valid. Now, Nathan, your example is not necessarily incorrect in terms of validity, but if the question is, make sure that it's not sound, then I have to know facts about you so that I can compare them to what you're claiming. So if you say my bike can't go fast, and that's the false statement, then I would have to know information about whether you have a bike and whether it's fast or not. The first premise, all vehicles go fast, fair enough, that's false, I suppose, because there are like, very slow modes of transport, walking around on roller skates or something. So I guess just based on the fact that the first premise is false, I could let that pass. But when you make a reference to like a fictional character or something about your own life, that does not work because I can't evaluate it and judge whether it's actually true or not. So if the direction is make sure it's not sound, then include a premise that is evidently false in the real world, and we all know it. Now, Philip, you're having issues with deductive validity fundamentally. Everyone around me speaks English, we're all humans, and therefore every human speaks English. Clearly invalid. Everyone around you maybe does speak English. Let's say you're in an English-speaking environment. And all those people are humans, yes. But why would you think that implies that every human speaks English? That's like not at all correct. It's like clearly incorrect because the two premises are true and the conclusion is false. That's the definition of invalid, when an argument is such that the premises can be true and the conclusion false. Okay, so had to do a little work there to clarify a few things. When you have a valid argument that's not sound, there's a premise in it that's false. Like if I say that all human beings can swim and Nathan is a human being, so Nathan can swim, that would perhaps be valid but not sound because the first premise is not true. Would it be better to get rid of the my part of my bike and replace it with bikes can go fast? That would be better, I think. Yes, it would be, because I at present do not know if you even own a bike. So when you say my bike can't go fast, how do I know you don't have like a really elite racing bike that does go fast? And so in that case, it would be false. But I mean, I need to know that about you, you know? Okay, so Philip, I thought no sound was everything was true, but the conclusion isn't. No, that's not the case, Philip. A sound argument is valid. And what that means is that the premises, if they're true, the conclusion has to be true. In addition, with a sound argument, the premises are in fact true. Which term are we on right now? Well, we kind of got bogged down in the question about number 12 and number 13. I asked for an example of a valid argument that was not sound, and we struggled to produce one because in many of the cases given, the argument either wasn't valid in the first place, or it was impossible to verify or evaluate whether it was sound because it makes reference to claims that I don't know the truth value of one way or the other. So, like, for example, all humans have two parents biologically. I don't know. Biden is a human. Therefore, Biden has two biological parents. Now, this is, let me ask, to sort of check your understanding. I'm telling you this. This argument is valid. The question is it sound or unsound? This argument is valid. It is valid. But is it a sound, valid argument, or is it an unsound, valid argument? Yeah, Nathan, about that, I would say avoid references to you, the individual, unless there's something about you that I know, like I'm a human. And of course, since you're writing it and you're in this class, I know that much about you. But if you say like I've never been to France or I have been, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, wait, what? Lan, you say it's unsound. Can you explain why you're saying that? Ryan, you're also saying it's unsound. So tell me why you think it's unsound. Maybe you're thinking that the parents are still alive, and that's why you think it's not sound? Let me get clear as to why you think it's not sound. Just explain your answer, why you think it's not sound. Because not all humans have two biological parents. Why are you saying that, though? Every human being has two biological parents. Where do they come from if they don't have two biological parents? You have to have a sperm conceiving an egg. You have to have sperm fertilizes an egg, and then you have pregnancy. So it's absolutely impossible for a human being to exist without two parents that conceived the child. So it's sound. Yes, it's sound. Ryan, you say the conclusion. What do you mean the conclusion? What's wrong with the conclusion, Ryan? The conclusion says Joe Biden has two biological parents, and of course he does. They're dead, but he had to have two parents to be a human being. I mean, I was thinking this would be so obvious and so clear. This is clearly sound because the statements here are both true, and the conclusion follows from them. Have, okay. Had, would that make you feel better? So all human beings had two biological parents, but like parents, we have parents even when our parents are gone, in the sense that like we were born by parents, or that we were conceived on the basis of parents. Test tube babies, even in that case though, there's still two biological progenitors of the parent. There's the donor of the sperm, and then there's the donor of the egg that are fertilized in the test tube and then reimplanted through in vitro fertilization. So even in the case of a test tube baby, you do have a male and a female progenitor that supply the gametes. So yes, every human being has two biological parents. Okay. Let's see. All humans can fly. Biden is a human. Biden can fly. This argument's valid. Is it sound or not? But Alex, come on. Even people who have foster parents or step parents, I worded it so carefully, say that they have biological parents. That's not to exclude the case of having other parents. So I didn't mean like you live with your biological parents. It's just that you have them, or that they are in relation to the fact that you were born. This is not sound. Very good. Why is it not sound? Let's say it quickly. It's not sound, but just say the reason. Because humans cannot fly, exactly. So it's a valid argument just in terms of the logic. The logic of the argument is impeccable. This conclusion follows from those premises just by matter of what the information says. So the word truth doesn't apply to a whole argument. It applies to the individual premises within the argument. So what you're trying to say is that an argument which is not sound is valid, but at least some premise is not true. It makes sense logically, but there's a premise that's false, or multiple premises that are false. Because technically, we can't say an argument is true or false. Arguments are either valid or invalid, sound or unsound, strong or weak. But the argument as a whole has pieces. Each piece is either true or false. And it is to the individual sentences within the argument that the term true either applies or does not apply. Okay, so we've covered deduction, deductive validity, soundness, and how you can have arguments that are valid and sound, or you can have arguments that are valid but not sound. If I say to you that every human being has climbed Mount Everest, and Dr. Vulich is a human being, so therefore Dr. Vulich has climbed Mount Everest, that argument is valid, but it's not sound, because not every human being has climbed Mount Everest, far from it. Nonetheless, if we disregard whether that's all true or false, the conclusion given is a logical result of the premises above. Okay, so with that, You know what? I still don't want to move on too fast from it, though. Let me ask you this. Ryan, well, you're giving a question. How about all cars run on gas? And a Tesla is a car, so therefore it runs on gas. Very good. That's valid but not sound. Because if we just take the premises as givens, like suppose it's a given that all cars run on gas, and then also grant that Tesla is a car. If those two things are givens, then the conclusion does follow from them. But yes, you're very correct, Ryan. Since all cars don't run on gasoline, at least not anymore, the first premise is false, and that deprives the valid argument from being sound. Okay, so that's valid but not sound. Very good. Okay, well, you know what? Since you gave me that, I don't have to give one more example. I was thinking, let me just hit him with one more just to make sure it's clear enough. Maybe I'll still do it. All human beings were born underwater. Let's see. LeBron James is a human being, so therefore he was born underwater. Run it back one more time. All humans born underwater. LeBron's a human, so he was born underwater. This is what? You have a frozen video thing going on right now? Let me ask, do others have an issue with the video feed? Because I'm actually watching the video feed on my own phone, and it seems like it's working. Do you still have this problem? How about others in the meeting? Well, we're getting inconsistent answers. Janae, what's going on your end? Bad quality? Well, just refresh it. It will stop and load periodically. That's fine. You'll be able to watch the full video later once it's uploaded to the channel. And at that point, whatever bandwidth issues there might have been should be fine. But you can always hit refresh or hit the live button and it'll come right back up. So not to worry, guys. Just let me know, though, when there are those issues so that I can pause for a minute and make sure that our connection is solid and secure. But thank you for letting me know. Okay, so question, though, which I was asking. If I say that all humans were born underwater and LeBron James is a human, therefore he was born underwater, tell me the status of that argument. Valid and not sound. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that you lose the point. After all that discussion, I just wanted to make sure you could report correctly on the status of that kind of argument. Okay, so here's our new question then. What is an inductively strong argument? If you could tell me, what's the definition of an inductively strong argument? And this is on the study guide list, number 15 under chapter 8. But if it's inductively strong, now we're done with deduction for the moment, and we're asking about the other type of logical argument structure. What is an inductively strong argument? Okay, good, Lan. If all the premises are true, then in that case, the conclusion is highly likely to be true. Good. When you have an inductively strong argument, when the premises are true, they don't guarantee the conclusion, but they do offer probable support for it. Okay, so like, suppose that I've run for 100 days in a row, and then you predict that I'll run on the next day after that. So I've run the past 100 days, therefore I'll go on a run tomorrow. Given that kind of pattern and track record, it will seem pretty probable, won't it, that I'll do this because it seems like I'm doing it every day. But we can't guarantee that I will just because I have so far. Something could happen, maybe my pattern or habits will change a little bit, or something will come up and I won't be able to. But anyway, that's some evidence to go by. If you think I'll run tomorrow because I told you I just ran for 100 straight days, you have a good reason to think it's more likely than not. But again, it's not absolutely guaranteed. Unlike with a deductive argument, where if I say, you know, I'm older than John and John's older than Bill, so I'm older than Bill, that conclusion can't be false given the two premises. With an inductively strong argument, there is some possibility for the premises to not show the conclusion to be true, but in the most mainstream of cases, the conclusion is likely to be true based on those premises. So let's see, who can write down an example of an inductively strong argument? So just give an example where the premises give good reason to believe in the conclusion, but they don't absolutely 100% show that it has to be true. So I'll just give you a minute to think of something. There are many of them that we've talked about, and some of them I'm sure you can just run off the top of your head. So let's go. What do you think? I mean, so far, since the pandemic started, I haven't gotten the coronavirus, so therefore I won't get it today. Maybe that's a good reason to think that it won't happen. If I've been able to avoid it for a year, probably it's not going to be my day-to-day to get it, but who knows? Something could happen, I suppose, in the meantime. But that's an example that I'm giving. I want you to give me a different example of your own. So some type of pattern or sequence of events that makes you think something is probable or likely to happen. I can't read your mind. You got to tell me. You got to write it down. We see the definition. That's good, Lan. But we need to back it with an example then. So what's an example? Okay. Well, Matthias, you just said countries who started a major vaccination campaign. That's not an argument. Come on, an argument has to have multiple sentences. It has to have a conclusion and then at least one premise. So you have not written an argument. Where's the word therefore? Okay, so Lan, Facebook has existed for more than a decade, so therefore will continue to exist for the next couple of years. Nah, that's not a great example because first of all, you are giving a conclusion that doesn't predict one event, it predicts years. With induction and inductively strong arguments, the conclusion should be only stating that this thing will happen one more time in the next observable instance. Usually the format of an inductively strong argument is something has happened n number of times, where n is like a large number, and therefore it will happen on the n plus 1th time, or the next observable instance. You don't want to extend the prediction of the conclusion out to 3, 4, 5 years. So if I say to you that the sun has come up for billions of years, the conclusion would be it will come up tomorrow, not that it will come up for another billion years, because that's lowering the probability because now you have a much more extensive range of cases that you're predicting, not just one. Okay, does that make sense to you, Lan? I mean, the structure of your argument was okay, but it's not a very good prediction. First of all, a decade in the long, big picture of time is not that much time for like a big tech company to like run a social media type of service. And saying that it will happen for the next couple of years is perhaps not modest enough. So if you said it will exist for another day or another week, that's better. Philip, it's cloudy today. It normally gets cloudy before it rains, and therefore it will rain tomorrow. Sure, I guess. It's easy enough, I think, to take that as a decent example. You say it normally gets cloudy before it rains. So usually cloud happens before there's rain. So you predict the rain is going to happen. Is it 100% certain? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, a good inductively strong argument, I think, would have a better association between the evidence and the conclusion than just clouds and rain. I mean, clouds sometimes don't lead to rain. But anyway, fair enough. Then Jordan, the dinosaurs have been extinct for millions of years. Therefore, they'll probably still be extinct tomorrow. Well, Jordan, the thing is, though, the word extinct is more like a deductive word. Extinct means there's no such thing anymore. It doesn't mean there's very few of them. So I think according to the way you use the word, it's tough to say that it's entirely inductive. But I suppose because we've all seen films like Jurassic Park and stuff, it remains a theoretical possibility to revive extinct species through some type of genetic engineering. So I guess I would allow it, but you understand what I mean. Extinct isn't the same thing as like something has been happening for so long. It's not like extinction's been happening the whole time. They've just been dead the whole time. So it's not like an ongoing process. Ryan, I've been going to the gym for the last 10 years. Okay, so you'll go to the gym tomorrow. Do you go every day though? Is that what you mean? Because 10 years, it could be like I go like once a week for the past 10 years. If that's the case, then I don't know if this fits into your weekly gym schedule. So you might want to make it a little more tight, saying like I go every single day or whatever, even if that's not true. Okay, good, Jordan. You sent to someone before you said it as an example. No, that's okay though, Stephen. It is like a core example that is often used to teach the concept. But once you understand the concept, you should be able to like extend it to other cases too. Matthias, countries that have a strong vaccination campaign and maintain social distancing and tracing get the number of new cases under control, and as supported by data in the pandemic and many during the past century. So it follows that there are strong strategies for a country to control the spread of cases during this pandemic. Yes, I mean, it's a bit wordy and verbose, but I understand what you're saying. Like, these are protocols that have been developed, which in the past have been shown to reduce transmission rates. And therefore, if we apply these methods today in the current condition of our pandemic, then we should expect those rates to decline. Why is it inductive? Because I guess there's always the possibility that our experience with past pandemics will be radically different than what we see in a new case. And so, yeah, that's a fair example, although, yeah, it takes a minute to see what you meant, but I understand. Philip, would it be better if I said my grandma's joints hurt before it rains? My grandma's joints hurt today, and therefore tomorrow it will rain. I mean, look, Philip, notice the kind of genre of examples that we keep giving though. We talk about stuff that's been happening for so long, like a pattern where it didn't just happen once, it happened twice, 3 times, 1,000,000 times, whatever. But it's not a totally off base example. It's just a little odd. That's the thing I'm trying to say. Your grandma's joints hurt before it rains, and her joints hurt today, so tomorrow it will rain. You should probably say like usually or something. Otherwise, it sounds like categorical, and then it starts to sound like a deductive argument. The better kind of case, though, I would say, is to say that something has been happening for a certain defined time period. When you say that the joints hurt before it rains, it just sounds like period, not usually. You don't talk about how long this has been something that you've noticed or whatever. But I kind of know what, like, Philip, you keep doubling down. You want to go with the rain example. You're like, come on, let it be rain. Just let me have this example. There's no real logical connection between these joints hurting and a person, and then rain happening. But I guess if that's something that you say happens, then maybe just be a little bit more specific. Like in 90% of cases where it has been that my grandmother's joints have hurt, it rained the following day. Be precise, because if you just say it hurts before it rains, that sounds like 100%. And if that's the case, it's actually deductive. It'd be a weird, I think, unsound argument, but it would be like saying, when my grandma's joints hurt, if my grandma's joints hurt, it rains. They hurt, therefore it rains. That's like modus ponens. So it doesn't speak to a specified time period, and it doesn't make a prediction. Well, it does make a prediction, but the prediction is based on something that you didn't state as a matter of chance. You just say it happens. But that's okay. Just trying to be picky. I'm picky. I'm a picky person. I'm a logic professor. So that's how it's going to be, and you have to think about that when you give the examples. Okay, but it's good. So let's continue from here. What would be an inductively weak argument? That would be like an argument where the conclusion is not even very probable, even if we assume the premises are true. Like if I say I found $1 on the ground yesterday, so therefore I'm going to find $1 on the ground today. Is this a pattern? Is this something that repeats? Any of you guys who have ever found money probably know that that's something really random, and it doesn't usually just happen because people don't drop their money in most cases. So it's not a very good solid base of evidence to make the prediction. It's a prediction, it's based on something, but it's not a very reliable one. So it's not even more likely than not. With a good inductive argument, whatever the evidence that you give establishes with some degree of good probability that the conclusion is going to happen. But if there's random things that don't have any kind of logical connection to others, then the conclusion that you're using based on those things is not likely to happen. Okay, that would be inductively weak. So we want to make inductively strong arguments when we do use induction. Okay, so what is an example of a disjunctive syllogism? Who could tell me what the form of disjunctive syllogism is? So there's 4 different types of deductively valid argument forms that we studied. And so I'm just asking about those pieces of info. Starting with disjunctive syllogism. Who could list out the format, the structure of that disjunctive syllogism. Yeah, you'll find that. It's definitely in your notes, in the book, in the lectures. You've already been quizzed on it in the quiz. So what is a disjunctive syllogism? They also call it the argument from elimination, and we just need to know what it looks like. So let's type it out. Well, Ryan, either or is just a part, but an argument is never just one statement or anything. So give me the full format. A disjunction is an either or sentence, but that's one sentence in the full argument. So go ahead and list out all the premises and conclusion in terms of the form of disjunctive syllogism. But you're on to the right, you're like on the trail. You said either or, but there's more to say. That's just a piece of it. So what's the full-blown structure of disjunctive syllogism? Either A or B, not A. And so, almost there. Then B, therefore B. Good. So disjunctive syllogism, aka also known as argument from elimination. That's the pattern of premises and conclusion. Either A or B. Not A, therefore B. Okay? Can anyone write an individual example using that form? So let's get a real example now of that form. So you just got to plug things in for A and B. Let's see, who's got this one? You definitely know it. It's right there. So just let's get it out. See, there's a form, and then there's examples that use the form. So we have the form, that's what it is, as Ryan wrote, and as it is stated on the board. But now you just have to give a concrete example of this form. You can't just wait for the other students to act. I mean, so what did we talk about? Diffusion of responsibility. In a group setting, no one feels individual. Okay, there we go. So Nathan, either you're with me or against me, you're not with me, therefore you're against me. Okay, that's an easy enough example. It has these two cases in the disjunction, with me or against me. You're not with me, so you are against me. That's a good one. Anybody else? Toss another example out there. That's the right kind of format. And so you have a disjunction, that's an either or statement. It's followed up by the denial or the elimination of one. And then the conclusion is the other member. Okay, Philip, I can either go shopping or play with friends. I didn't go shopping, so therefore I'm playing with friends. Okay, good. Anna, either she went on a blind date or hung out with her best friend. She didn't hang out with her best friend, and therefore she went on a blind date. And that's also good, Anna. And that reminds me that there's also another possibility here. Like, so for example, if you negate the other disjunct, B, then the conclusion would be A. So that's another possible way that the argument could play out, where you have the full disjunction and the negation of the other term, which would result in the alternative member being the conclusion. So basically, this is also possible. Okay. So the rule is just that it starts with the disjunction. Afterward, one of those two is eliminated. And then in conclusion, we result to the other one that wasn't eliminated. That's important to know because what's not correct is to write the affirmation of one of the disjuncts here and then negate the other one in the conclusion. So if it said either A or B, A, and therefore not B, that would be incorrect. So just remember that the second premise of disjunctive syllogism always must be a denial, a negation statement, okay? So then, disjunctive syllogism. I will either, my friend is either arriving on the bus or on the train, but the train service has been closed down. So he's taking the bus, right? And then you've got this stuff about food, Ryan. Either I'll eat burger or I'll eat chicken salad for dinner, and I don't like red meat, therefore I'll have chicken salad for dinner. Sure. That's a good example, and it fits the format, and I would give full credit for it. But here's the only thing about those kind of examples. When the disjunction is a choice that you're making, like I will either have a burger or salad or something, I mean, you're the one then that makes the decision. So it's not like you're really reasoning or deducing much. A pure case of deduction would be like there's two cases and you don't know which one it is and you don't get to choose, so you have to figure it out, right? So like if I say my friend is arriving either through Terminal 1 or Terminal 3, but they just shut down Terminal 1 and so he must be coming out of Terminal 3, you know, in that case, I had to reason my way towards what would happen. When I'm just the one choosing something, I'm kind of at liberty to choose either one. How about this? So we know that the father is either Jack or Bill. It's got to be one of those two people because the woman only has had sex with these two men and she's pregnant. And so we don't know which one is the father. We do a paternity test. It eliminates Jack. Therefore, Bill must be the father. Okay, so just examples to think about. Let's go on to the next, though. Next, I'm asking about modus ponens. So a modus ponens argument is one member of the hypothetical syllogism family. And these different hypothetical syllogisms, modus ponens, modus tollens, chain argument, they all have one thing in common, which is that they all have conditionals in them. And a conditional sentence is an if-then sentence. So that's what I would like to just say to you to kind of refresh your memory. But now help me fill in the rest. What is an example, or what is the form, either one, of modus ponens? Sorry. So the format of modus ponens. What do you think? It's a hypothetical syllogism, so you know that there's an if-then in there. But just let me get from you the precise structure overall. Okay, if A, then B, A. So one thing, Philip, I've noticed that you've done a few times. It's a small thing. Also, Nathan, you did this in your example just above. But when you write down the conclusion, the word then is not the word, because then is not a conclusion indicator word. There's therefore, thus, hence, so, consequently, it follows that, ergo, QED. So let's not get in the habit of writing then as a preface to the conclusion, because it makes it seem that the conclusion is a part of a conditional. But anyway, if A, then B, A, and in that case, therefore, B. Okay, so this statement here is what's called a conditional. A conditional is an if-then statement. And with every conditional, there are two parts. This first part, if A, that's called the antecedent. The second part, then B, that's called the consequent. So the if part, antecedent, then part, consequent. Modus ponens is sometimes also known as affirming the antecedent. And that's because in the second premise, we do affirm the antecedent of the conditional. And it leads us to the consequent of the conditional here in the conclusion line. So go ahead and if you can, please provide an example of modus ponens then. That doesn't use the letters like, you know, A, B, and all that, but just fills in and gives actual information. So try to write down a modus ponens example. If you don't eat dinner, you'll be angry. You did not eat dinner, and therefore you're angry. Okay, good. That's a fine example. It starts with what will happen if you don't eat the dinner. It adds to this that you didn't do it, and therefore whatever will happen if you don't is our consequence, is our conclusion. Good. Anyone else? Let's see another case. Thus, I'm angry. Sure. Matt, if Tom is a cat, he can meow. Well, no, Matt, this is wrong. What you wrote is wrong. Can you spot the error, Matt? I'll tell you what it is, but maybe you could just tell me yourself. Look at what you wrote and tell me what you think is wrong. Because it's wrong. If I don't get video games, I'll be upset. I didn't get my video games, and therefore I'm upset. Sure. Now, but I noticed this. You're kind of taking a very similar format to what Stephen wrote, is that if something doesn't happen, then, you know, you're mad, you're upset, whatever. It doesn't have to be about like that precise type of example, but it's fine to use it. It's any if then. Okay, yeah, so that's, sorry, Stephen, A needs to be a premise, not B. Yeah, so the second premise of the argument, Matt, you say if Tom is a cat, he can meow. Can we understand that the second premise would have to say that Tom is a cat, therefore he can meow? So you flipped and reversed, switched the second premise with the conclusion. Kellen, if I'm a man, then I can't give birth. I am a man, and therefore I can't give birth. Good, that's fair. Lan, okay, not to worry. Lan, if I drink alcohol, then I'll be drunk. I drank alcohol, and therefore I'm drunk. Also fine. If she studies, she'll pass. She did study, therefore she'll pass. Okay, good. So just keep that in mind. It's possible to make that error, not to worry, Matt, but it's something that some people have done on, previous work, like on the first homework or on the quiz. So we got to make sure to eliminate that error. And it's easy enough to eliminate it. Just remember, it's A, then B. It's this part, and then the conclusion is the right-hand side. And if you do it in the opposite order, it's not valid. Like if I say to you that if I'm in California, then I'm on the West Coast, then I add I am in California, well, it does follow that I'm on the West Coast. But suppose that I say if I'm in California, then I'm on the West Coast, and then I say I'm on the West Coast, so therefore I'm in California. No, because I could have been in Oregon or I could have been in Washington, right? So from the one fact, the other follows, but not the other way around. With this if-then, the then follows from the if, not the other way around. Okay, so Ryan, if Bitcoin has 100,000 K or 100K, then I'll be rich. Oh, hit. If Bitcoin hit 100K, then I'd be rich. It did, and therefore I'm rich. Okay, cool. So there you go, Ryan. Everyone's trying to get rich off this Bitcoin. We can't all be rich, though. It's, but anyway, that's fine. So good examples. Thank you, guys. So let's go next to modus tollens. The question I'm asking now is, what's that one look like? Different order, different pattern, but it's got some things in common with modus ponens. The one thing it has in common is how it starts, okay? So I'll give you that for now. I'm getting a little closer to the end, and I want to make sure we run through the chapter 8 stuff. So tell me what's modus tollens look like from here. First premise, if A, then B. But what's the rest? I know you got it, so yeah, just tell me. Okay, so that's right, exactly, Kellen. If A, then B. Not B, so therefore not A. Exactly. And while I'm writing that here, somebody try and now fill in the gaps on A and B and that stuff, and give an actual argument then. If A, then B, but not B, and so therefore not A either. So then what do you think could be an example of that? Okay. Kellen, I would remember the affirming the antecedent and denying the consequent. Yes, that's true. The modus tollens is also known as denying the consequent. I think that's easier to remember when you have that in mind. I just don't know how each student thinks about it. Some, I think, find it confusing to remember what is an antecedent and a consequent. But yes, this is denying the consequent, modus tollens. If you could, just help out by stating an argument now with this form. Okay, so if you run, you'd be tired, and you're not tired, and so therefore you didn't run. That's a fine example, Philip, yes. Nathan, if they go, then I'll be sad. Well, you're wrong, Nathan. I'm sorry. No. Nathan, please. Look at the argument, see what you wrote, and now hopefully you'll just be able to correct yourself. It's wrong. It's not modus tollens, what you wrote. Brittany, if I cry, then I'll be sad. I didn't cry. This is also wrong, Brittany. Come on. Both of you guys, to the others or anyone, correct that. What's wrong with that? They're both making the same mistake. What are you doing in the second premise? And look at the form. But it's good. This is practice. I mean, you want to make these mistakes now because you don't want to do it on the day of the test. But I'm going to try and, intervene into your thinking to give you a memory, an impression of why this was wrong. Okay, so why is it wrong? You're denying the wrong part. Yes, Kellen, they're denying the antecedent. It's denying the consequent. It says not B. Now look what you wrote. When you say, if they go, then I'll be sad, they didn't go. Didn't go is denying this. That's wrong. It's the other way around. So you have to switch those two parts. Anna, if she studies, she'll pass the test. She didn't pass, and therefore she didn't study. If they go, then I'll be sad, and I'm not sad, and so therefore they didn't go. That's right. Yes. And Brittany, it should be I'm not sad, and therefore I didn't cry. Very well. Yes. Now, if you say that something causes something else, then knowing that this thing didn't happen obviously gives you the fact that whatever would have caused it did not happen. Okay, so if I get stabbed, then I would bleed, and I'm not bleeding. And so obviously if I'm not bleeding, I didn't get stabbed, because stabbing causes bleeding. And if I'm not bleeding, then there's nothing that happened that would have led to it. Okay. If I eat carbs, I'll run 5 miles. I didn't run 5 miles, thus I didn't eat carbs. That's okay. That works. So anyway, guys, let's keep that clear, because this is one of those errors that I see sometimes students making, and we've seen it here again. If I drank, then I'll get a hangover, and I didn't get a hangover, so you didn't drink. That's a good example too. I would kind of think at the first premise, though, I might flip them around, because drinking doesn't mean you'll always get a hangover. You might drink a small amount. But the other thing is true. If you get a hangover, you had to have drank. So if I get a hangover, I drank, but I didn't drink, and therefore I didn't get a hangover. But I see your example too. Okay, so keep it clear. Not B. Not B is the second premise, and it has to be, and then it's correct. Otherwise, it's no credit. Okay, so then there's chain argument. The chain argument, and we'll pick up where we left off on Tuesday, guys. So I'm just going to let you have this one for a moment. If A, then B, followed up by the second premise. If B, then C. And then in the end, we have, therefore, if A, then C. So with the chain argument, it's all conditionals, all the way, from the top to the bottom. Every statement is an if-then. And the only rule is we have one conditional with this consequent. The next premise picks up where that one left off by taking this consequent and making it a new antecedent. So A leads to B, B leads to C, and therefore the conclusion is that if A occurs, then because it leads to B, which triggers C, then C will occur. So the rule is that you have to combine and connect the first antecedent of the initial premise with the last consequent of the final premise. Sometimes chain argument can go on for more than 2 premises, and if it did, then you'd have to combine A with whatever the last consequent is, and maybe a third premise, it would be D. So if I run, then I'll sweat, and if I sweat, then I'll shower, so if I run, then I'll shower, as an example. Kellen, if I stay later for work, I'll impress my boss. If I impress my boss, I'll get a raise. So if I stay late for work, I'll get a raise, and that's a good example too. Okay, so guys, thanks so much for your help today. One last thing, though, I don't want to let this go. What's the standard form of an argument? It's what you see here, and that's important to know. If you write an argument and you just write it all as a bunch of sentences that continue to run along on one line, that's not the proper logical format. So every premise has to be separated in a list from the others. So like when one is done, you jump to the next line available and you create a new premise. And then there's a horizontal line below all the premises and above the one conclusion. So arguments listed in logic should look this way. And when people don't write them in standard form, there can be a slight deduction of credit too. Okay, guys, so we had a good first review session, and we got a whole bunch of time on Tuesday to do another part 2. So just have a good weekend, and I'll be in touch with you over the weekend. And on Tuesday, we'll be returning to the meeting to go over the last few notes that we have on the other chapters. So are we all good, guys? Let me know in the chat if we are. And if so, then I'll be able to close our stream for today. And perfect. Okay, thanks so much again, guys. I appreciate your hard work. I know sometimes it's tricky. It's difficult material in a way, but we're helping each other get through it, and I know you can do it, so not to worry. Do you want us to write the line? Yeah, I like it when you write the line. I'm not exactly always insisting on it, but if you do have it, that would be the best. Because it keeps clear that this is the conclusion. When you have a line, you know that the conclusion's right below it, and so that makes it clear. You don't have to necessarily number the premises, but I often do because it makes clear that they're listed, and it makes sure that you don't just continue them on the same line. Okay. Thanks again then, everyone, and have a great weekend. I'll be in touch if you need me. Okay, bye-bye.